Welcome, everyone. I am your instructor today. What I want to say is that we're going to be talking, obviously, about FDA and EMA, the FDA being the U.S. and the EMA being the European Medicines Agency, the equivalent of the FDA in Europe, about the inspection findings and what lessons we have learned. The good news is that it's getting harder and harder to find new warning letters, because I do use some warning letters as examples towards the end of this session. And the good news is it's getting harder and harder to find those, and I think people are doing better in terms of the inspection outcomes. We see that there's an increase in no action indicated and very small percentage of folks that really have official action indicated. So that's the good news. But we will go through these because essentially the things that we do find still are unchanged in terms of the ranking, in terms of what's the top level versus what's number 5, what's number 6, that sort of thing. So we will go through all of that. But what I'd like to do first is just kick off with some introductions. I know you have the slides, so I won't read all this to you. I'll just tell you that in a quick snapshot that I've been involved with clinical research for 40 years, basically, and I have started out in academia as a clinical research coordinator, became a site manager, then transitioned to industry, and started out as a monitor, had positions, a variety of positions, study manager, quality roles, quality oversight, and as I say, a variety of different roles, and site selection specialist was another one. And then about 7 years ago, I decided to go independent, and now I'm an independent consultant specializing in training and quality oversight. So that's me, and I have nothing to disclose. I'm not going to be talking about any products today at all. I can't see you, but that's me. Today what we're going to do is take a look at the number of major and critical findings that have come about. And again, we have to use only FDA. We can use data from the EMA, but I don't have any real warning letters or any other real data that I can share with you that way from EMA because of the privacy rules in Europe. So here the warning letters are public information. You can go to fda.gov and see them. So I do use those as examples, but I do have the stats in terms of EMA, so that I can share with you, and I will. All right, so we're going to look at the annual BIMO top inspection findings, and sadly, the order of those inspection findings have not changed over the last 8 years. We find consistently now that the first thing in terms of the FDA, when they have inspections, the first thing that they note, or the thing they note most often, is that folks are not following the protocol. Okay, it used to be informed consent for many, many years. Informed consent now has fallen down to about number 6, so we're getting better with that. But following the protocol, like following the instructions, seems to be the big issue. So we will take a look at that and take a look at in detail all the different items. We're going to discuss how to prevent the major and critical inspection findings, and hopefully to instill this with our sites and to make sure our monitors are on top of the situation in terms of when they find something, to kind of create a corrective and preventive action to put that in place, but to also think proactively about what they should be thinking before something happens. So the whole idea today now, especially with the ICH-GCP revision 2, the whole idea is to really get quality systems in place and think of what could go wrong before it actually goes wrong. So in other words, instead of having that reactive mechanism in terms of, okay, we're going to do our root cause analysis and do our CAPAs, to think proactively, what's the worst possible thing that can happen, what is the risk that it could happen, and then try to put something in place to prevent it from ever occurring. So that's the kind of mindset that we should be getting ourselves into. Okay, here's that list I was talking about. This list, as I said, has not changed in the last 8 years. In terms of the most common clinical investigator deficiencies, the FDA finds that failure to follow the protocol, failure to follow the investigational plan or regulations is number 1. Protocol deviations is closely followed in number 2. Inadequate record keeping. In the 4th spot, we have inadequate accountability for the investigational product. Number 5 is the inadequate communication with the IRB. That could be something like not filing the annual report appropriately or on time. It could be not filing the safety reports on time or not at all. It could be using an informed consent before we have the final approval or an approved informed consent from the IRB. So inadequate communication with the IRB is sort of a very broad basket. And then number 6 is, again, informed consent issues, inadequate subject protection. And so it includes more than informed consent, but that's where that's lumped in. So these are the top 6. As I say, they have not changed in a number of years.